So today's a day I'm very excited about because I get to start the process of my woodworking studio. But also it's the day that I've been dreading because it's this woodworking studio and it's an absolute shambles. So the first thing I was gonna like start down low and just sort of get stuff, but then I realized that the insulation / ceiling is just cardboard. Literally just a piece of cardboard. So my first task is to start at the top, bring everything down, just so that I can, well, start again. What was this guy thinking? It is multiple layers of cardboard. Followed by styrofoam, which we all love styrofoam. Why this guy thought cardboard was a great insulator, I mean, it is, but it's not. Well, there's so many other better things in the world. Don't get me wrong, this is thick cardboard too. Oh my gosh. I have to say, for somebody who profession was aesthetics, you know, making woodworking stuff, basically theoretically making beautiful things, you made a bunch of crappy looking things. Like this ceiling is just horrible. Oh, I need a screwdriver. He actually used screws for something, which is quite shocking because he owned almost no screws. Everything he had were bolts and nails, and then he uses screws. Never in my life have I owned cordless tools, but boy, I see the benefit of them now. Mostly because we don't always have power here. Are you kidding me? Why would you do a different screw? Why? You switch to star screws instead of Phillips head. Like why? Why would you use two different kinds of screw heads? That's just sadistic. Is this sadistic or does he say masochistic? I don't know. Either way, it's annoying is what it is. Chances are, if he's using stars heads once, he's probably done it again. So. No. Okay, one thing down. Next big problem with this process. Well, not a big problem, but next issue of this process. These things that come down are so damn big that I have to physically get them out of my way just to keep working.
why this person thought to use cardboard, but the cardboard wasn't really sort of sealed, so dust got behind above the cardboard in the ceiling. So not only is there sawdust on the cardboard, there's sawdust behind the cardboard, so there's just sawdust everywhere. That's the reason why I'm doing this before I do everything else, because this is just going to be in the way of everything. It's just, sawdust is just going to fall everywhere. So might as well fall now on everything, rather than doing some cleaning and then having to clean again. I'll just make it so I do one cleaning. So now I wonder whether I'm being a snob by being like, oh, this is so poorly done, or it was actually poorly done. I don't know which. Tell me in the comments. Am I being a snob? I mean, admittedly, I'm a little bit of a snob about certain things. I don't think I'm being snobby about this. I think this sincerely was, it's called underappreciated, maybe. Needed a little more TLC, maybe even just like a little more forethought into what constitutes insulation. Of course, the other problem is there's a hole in the floor here. Cut to some picture of the hole in the floor. And the entire floor over here is a bit questionable, to put it lightly. Like that. As per my example. Well, at least the cross braces are strong. That's something. Thank God there's no like OSHA people watching for me. Or maybe they are. I wonder what the Czech OSHA is. I'm sure there is one. And I'm sure it's irrelevant in a home thing, but still. People at home do all kinds of ridiculous things. All right, here's a bit of foreshadowing. One of these times, I'm going to be pulling on a thing and I'm going to fall off this ladder. Let's hope it doesn't happen, but I can absolutely see it happening. I would never have said, hey, you know what's going to be hard today? Cardboard. That's going to be your hardest task today. Cardboard. I mean, just to be clear, because you all can't see it, this is like 3 and 4 ply cardboard. This is not like box cardboard. So it has some thickness to it. A little girth. Even a little weight. It's kind of heavy. Blah, 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 blah. I hope I didn't just break that glass. I've got a very good track record thus far of not breaking glass unintentionally. Intentionally breaking glass, a whole different story. Also have a good track record of that. What? I always find it very funny when things that are supposed to be super secure come apart insanely easily. All right, cardboard ceiling. You and me are having a chat. You're coming down. This cardboard has been reused from a Philips Medical Systems. And I've found a number of these throughout the entire property. Whew. By the way, like my new outfit, I have been struggling for over a decade. When I moved to the Middle East, I am a slightly taller than average, slightly broader shoulder than average, slightly longer arm than average person. And this is literally the first piece of clothing in the Middle East and in Europe that I have found fits me perfectly. Sleeve length is beautiful. Shoulders is beautiful. I mean, it's astounding. Like after, let's see what, it's 2016. No, it's 2026. After 14 years of living away from America, I finally found a brand. Unfortunately, they only do work clothes, but at least they do this. So I'll take it. A win is a win. Same thing with shoes. I have, again, slightly above average shoe size. So I find it very difficult to get shoes here. Oh shoot, I forgot my gloves. I don't know what I am anymore in American. I'm a 48 in Europe. I think it's 12 and a half. And every store here in Prague, they carry up to size 46 for everything. So 48 is either special order or anything like that, basically, but I can't just go into a store and go, hey, I love those shoes, I want to buy them. Nope, they don't carry my size. You know, I've been thinking about life choices. I know that seems like a ridiculous topic while I'm doing like the most absurd home renovation ever, but not life choices in any sort of regretful, negative way. Life choices in like, had I chosen to play the game a bit more, be the dutiful whatever, be the good teacher. Well, I mean, I think I'm a good teacher, but be the teacher that follows the rules and follows the status quo and all that kind of stuff. Being the good employee, that kind of stuff. How my life would have been very different. Would it have been easier or would it have been harder? I'm not sure. It just would have been different. I certainly wouldn't be where I am today, for better or for worse. I have a feeling that if I stayed in full-time academia, I would have caused a ruckus about something. Sorry, let's see. Ruckus about something that would have gotten me fired or suspended or arrested, who knows. Regardless. I mean, I once had a boss. I once had a guy who was my boss. I'm gonna try and tell this story without editorializing or mentioning names. But I had this boss, a dean, who was hired at the same time as me. Well, hired is also a loose term as well. He used to work on the main campus, and he got demoted down to working at the campus I was hired at. And he wanted to get back to main campus. So his entire goal was to reshape the entire place in his, we'll call it in his image. Not really. In a way that would get him back to where he wanted to be. So, he tried to accuse me of everything. He accused me of, well, let me go back a step. One day I asked for keys to the building that I teach in. And he was like, well, we don't generally do that, whatever. After a little back and forth, he ended up giving it to me. So on like Wednesday, he gives me keys to the building. Hold on. And then on the next Monday, I show up to work, and he accuses me of breaking into the building. Literally calls the police on me. And I'm like, you gave me keys. Personally, you gave me keys. He then went on for a year accusing me of like all kinds of ridiculous things. Just because he wanted to get rid of me. There was no facts, no basis in anything in his accusations. And he kept accusing me. So finally I got fed up with it. And so I sort of put together a dossier of all of his accusations that he did over the past year. And I sent them directly to the president of the school. Because I knew the person above him was actually a friend of his. So he would block it. So sent it directly to the president. And the president just responded with, lay off. So he laid off me. Now, of course, in the meantime, I got fed up with that job and his shenanigans. And so I had found another job. So finally, he calls me into his office. And he's like, Matt, I'm really sorry. These were inappropriate. I won't continue to do this. And I said, great, I quit because I'd gotten another job. So it felt good to have that moral victory. Is that a moral victory or an ethical victory? No, it's a moral victory. I'm going to go with moral victory because it just sounds better. So he's a absolute jackass. And then what's even funnier is he kept saying like, oh, why don't you be more like this other teacher? And he sounded like that. He didn't, I'm just kidding. But he was saying like, be more like this other teacher. And that other teacher that he thought was so high and mighty that I should be more like that teacher. 2 years later, that teacher got arrested for engaging in prostitution with an underage girl. So I was just sort of like, whew, boy, questionable morals here. Or is that ethics? That might be ethics. Either way, I have absolutely no idea how I got on this topic, but it's a fun story. True story. I'm gonna have to pour concrete down here because there's a big hole. Not only a hole, but broken wood over top of a hole. I mean, maybe I can put wood down. Maybe I don't have to do concrete. That'd be nice. It seems more appropriate to put wood down in a wood shop. Do I want to keep this? No, I don't. It's broken. I've been holding on to this whole time going like, well, maybe it's broken. Yeah, this big lumber that's here. I'm thinking there's one of these planks in there, and there's a second plank just like it out, still outside. Actually, wait, it's already here. But dining room table. It's beautiful, thick wood. You know, I generally say I love the smell of wood and sawdust and stuff, but this is overkill. I don't love this. Ow. I need to go to the store to get a drink of water because the water's not turned on in the house. So, break. The styrofoam ends up being such a mess in the yard. I'm gonna be a little more proactive this time and not put it in the yard. You know what's running through my head right now is what am I okay with putting out in the public? What conversations do I think is appropriate to discuss? I have lots of life experiences that I kind of feel like are not appropriate to discuss on YouTube. But since I'm the one doing the editing, I'll just go ahead and make the decision on my own. But I'll do a recording of it and then decide later. so much sawdust just sitting up here on top of things. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. What is that, Princess Bride? Another great movie reference. So circling back to life choices, the one that sort of sticks in my head is, and I think I've talked about this before, but is, should I have stayed where I grew up? Grew up outside of Washington, D.C. And for most of my life, I sort of felt bad for the people that stayed there because I don't think it was that great a place. Great place. It's not that great a place to raise children. It's way too political. There's all kinds of problems. Do I have any regrets about my childhood? Yes, of course I do. But they're about, they're about people, they're about situations. Things said, things not said, whatever. But should I have stayed there? It was sort of running away from my parents' shadow the right choice? Would my life have been better, let's say, quote unquote, better, had I stayed? I doubt it highly, but I often wonder, would I have been better if I had, would my life have been happier? I certainly do not believe so, but that doesn't stop me from wondering. I keep up with some people from that area, and well, no, I don't. Don't kid myself. I don't keep up with it. I stalk them on Facebook every now and then. And they all, the ones who stayed, they seem to have done well. They seem happy. No judgment on their life choices. But the question is, would it have been right for me? That's the question. It's not about right choices. It's about right choices for me. Would I have been happy? Probably not. And I'll never know whether I would have been happy, because of course I can't go back and do a different choice. But point being, sometimes you wonder about different paths. Like I have friends who are still in full-time academia. And with the state of the world and the state of the US and their position on academia right now, they're not happy. So, it's when this thing's, okay, so here, I'll take a step back. When I was in art school, I always wanted to be in Europe. I was like, oh my God, Europe's the place. Europe's the tits, gotta be there. That's where all the amazing art's being made, all the great opportunities, the collectors, the whatever. And now I'm here in Europe, and it is not at all what I had hoped or expected. And that's sort of the thing, is the Europe I had hoped and wanted to participate in was 1920s Paris, or even 1970s or 60s. Bottom line is that by the time we're aware of a great place to be or lifestyle to live, it's already passed. So yes, I'm here. Yes, I made it to Europe, and I'm about to have a pretty epic little studio to work in. Wow, pretty epic studio. It's not little. And well, it's not the 1920s Paris with the beautiful ceiling lights and all that, or ceiling skylights. And it's not that supportive network of creative people that existed around that time period. And the funding opportunities are not as forthcoming. The freedoms to do, the accessibility to just make is a little more acceptable here. So I guess the point is like, sometimes you dream of something, and of course it's not what you wanted it to be, or it doesn't live up to your expectations. But the truth of the matter is, sometimes those things never were. Because like, if you go back and look at some of those people that were actually there at that time, so whether it's Germany in the 80s or Paris in the 20s, they all had the same complaints that we have now. So it's not that times were better, it's that in hindsight times were better, because things change, things evolve. So it's that nature of hindsight, the looking back, that makes all the difference in the world. Sorry, doing this project is giving me way too much time to think. And so I'm thinking about all kinds of things that I'm quite certain most of you are like, what do I give a crap about this? I get that. I care enough. I care enough to say something about it. But there's, because part of what I'm thinking that I'm doing in this process is also creating a bit of a time capsule for my daughter. Natalie is only, 15 and a half, almost 16 months old. And I'm 52, and I have not lived the healthiest, best of lifestyles. And I will not be around forever. And I may not be even, I might be around actually, but I might not be helpful. So my thought here is that I'm trying to be helpful in the future. So making a record of thoughts and ideas, perspectives on life for her later, when I might not be able to be. Either I might be dead, or I might be not mentally all there. So I'm hoping to be able to make a record for her and make it so she can refer back to this. So while some of these random rants and tangential conversations are for you, the YouTube viewers, some of them are from my daughter. And if you get something out of it, great. If you don't, Natalie, this is for you. One of the other more difficult things about this project is I'm not going to say I'm an impatient person, but I like things to get done in a timely manner. This project will probably never be done. The amount of hopes and dreams that my wife and I have for this property will probably never be manifested all of it perfectly. But the journey is as important as the destination, right? So the process of doing this, I've got to try and find some joy in that, because if we're waiting for the final result, we're just gonna be miserable. So gotta find some joy in the process. Some days I find great joy in doing this. Days I have to wear masks are not one of those days. But, you know, I do like the results of what I'm doing, getting all this roof stuff down, but wearing a mask sucks. And of course, there'll be more joy and pleasure once we start building the things we want, rather than just removing previous owners' cockamamie build things. You know what I'm thinking about while I'm up here? I'm thinking about being up here. I know this sounds silly, but in my youth, and even just a couple of years ago, getting up and doing this kind of work, I'd be like playing music, my mind wandering onto whatever topic comes up. But now I have a daughter, and I want to make sure I'm here for her, and so I'm trying my best not to do stupid things, like up on ladders and other places like that. One of those interesting shifts that happens when you become a parent. Your fixation on making sure you're around. Okay, maybe it's not your fixation, my fixation on making sure I'm around. I've done so many dumb, stupid things in my life that I should have been hurt or killed. That the fact that I made it this long It would really suck for me to die now. Now that I actually have a reason. Well, that's one side. Sorry, knocked my hammer off. Well, that's one side done. And I'm tired, so I'm going to take lunch. Shows you I'm tired. Tripping. So back to it, but I'm gonna do the area right over top of the camera. I don't want to move the camera. Hello. Okay. Not as easy as I thought it would be. But none of this ever is. Well, that's not true. Some of it's been as easy as I thought it would be. It's just way more time consuming. I can't see myself, but I have a feeling there might be some sawdust on my head. I'm not certain. Tell me in the comments, because you know, by the time I look again, I'm sure it'll be gone. I certainly hope it'll be gone. Do I have something? You know, another random thing about living in Europe for me, when I was a kid, I remember being taught measurements, inches, I don't remember, quarts, pint, who knows? I don't remember what I was taught. And then they taught us imperial, they taught us liters, kilometers, all this. And I swear the American system just never made sense to me. I'm like, why? Why would you do such a stupid system of measurements? You know, everything based on a decimal system of like tens and hundreds makes so much more sense. And I remember railing against that in like high school. Now I live here, which is based in it. Not to say I understand it, but I can tell you it is still a lot easier to understand. So, kudos for the metric system. Americans, you absolutely have it wrong in this case, and you should revisit that. Luckily, I'm doing this at the end of winter, so by the time I need this insulation back in, i.e. next winter, it should give me plenty of time to do it. Because I'm guessing this place will need it, though it has a fire burning or a log burning furnace heater thingy, which, to be honest, I'm kind of excited to use. Sounds like fun. This person was so cute. He put up cardboard and then painted it white because he thought that would make it look better. It didn't make it look better. That's a problem for tomorrow, Matt. Tomorrow, Matt's already got a lot of problems. You know, when I was in art school, they used to joke that photographers were artists who didn't like to get dirty. Now, I was a photographer for a while. How do you feel about that not wanting to get dirty part now? I think their judgment was a little bit off on this one. But to be honest, I'm not a photographer anymore, really. I mean, I have the skills. I have the knowledge. If somebody wanted to hire me, it'd be great, I'll do it, but I don't own any of the equipment, so I'd have to rent everything. I look forward to doing something, anything here that does not involve being covered in dirt, dust, sawdust, any sort of, well, I just don't want to cover it in some product all the time. It'd be nice to do something a little tidier. I feel like every project here currently is involving me being covered in something. I gotta get that down before I poke my eye out with it. 'Cause I would. When I was 16 years old, I had what my therapist at the time called a nervous breakdown. Now, mind you, I didn't have a therapist before the nervous breakdown. But because of the nervous breakdown, I went to a therapist, and he retroactively called it that. He also diagnosed me as cyclothymic, which is a low-grade bipolar, basically. But basically it's bipolar, but not bipolar enough to need medication. And he said if I kept doing drugs, it could get worse. And you know how much I love listening to authority, so what did I do? I used more drugs. Self-medicating is what I did, to be honest. That was a thing back then, just self-medicate. Ooh, I hope that wasn't important. Whew, that was close. Bringing us forward to today, life has gotten nothing but more, just more. Oh, it's Wednesday at noon on the first Wednesday of the month here in the Czech Republic. First Wednesday of the month, they do a test siren for air raids and invasions. Not something I was expecting when I moved here. Okay, I wonder if you can hear it. Let's hope you got that. It wasn't something I expected when I moved here, but boy, with all the stuff happening in the Middle East right now, I'm kind of happy it's there. Not that I would know what to do if anything happened here. I don't know where a shelter is. I don't know where any of that stuff is, but anyways. That's concrete wall. All right, we'll leave that. Back to where I was. Moving forward to today, I recently started using a, what would it be called? Anti-anxiety, antidepressant, I'm not sure which it is, but very low dosage, just sort of enough to cut the edge, because for a couple years now I've been using Xanax to help with my anxiety, and I love Xanax, but it's a horribly addictive substance, so don't want to necessarily be doing that the rest of my life. So I started this low dose treatment of antidepressant, anti-anxiety medication. I don't even know what it's called, because here in the Czech Republic, I get a prescription, and I take that prescription, and they sort of disregard whatever the prescription says, and they give me whatever they have in stock that's similar. So I've gotten the prescription twice, and both times I got a different drug. So I'm not actually sure what the drug is, but it has done me wonders. I've been a very anxious person throughout my life, it seems. I say it seems. Because I did a podcast a couple years back, and I just talked with some people I went to graduate school with, and they were like, "Oh yeah, you were always anxious." I'm like, "What? I had no idea." So I guess I've always been anxious. I don't know. I mean, sort of know where it comes from. Is that relevant to this conversation? Probably not. But where did it come from? My parents, of course. You know, all of our issues come from our parents. But I don't mean it in a... Hold on. I don't mean it in the, like, my parents caused it. They did what they thought was right. They did what was sort of the norm at the time for child raising, and encouraged and pushed me to do better and be better. And in doing so, I was always anxious about doing better and being better. And like, so I just, that's part of my anxiety. So, low dose antidepressants, helpful for me. Don't know if they'd be helpful for everybody. I hope to not have to always take them either, but I have a feeling I'm going to be on this the rest of my life. Because life doesn't get easier. That's something nobody tells you. Well, I mean, people tell you, but you can't grasp until you actually get to that point in life. Like, I never fathomed, even 5 years ago, that my brother was going to die, and that my dad was going to die, and that my mother was going to be in a retirement community slowly just sort of forgetting everything. And yet here I am. And 5 years ago, I won't say we weren't planning to have a child, but we weren't actively trying to have a child 5 years ago. We were planning, but just, sometime in the future kind of planning. So life becomes way more, like I thought it would get easier-ish. Like, oh yeah, you got that figured out, you got that, move, you can do the next thing. You don't. You get something figured out, and then something else comes up. Something new and unexpected, because life is all about the new and unexpected. I'm going to poke an eye out on that. And then, of course, there's the point of I've decided to do something new, reinvent myself at the age of 52. And so I reinvent myself as doing all these new and different things. So what potentially could be World War III breaks out. Of course, I do not believe that a large-scale war will do well for my craft sales or even my YouTube channel. Well, maybe the YouTube channel, because people want to relate. Comment below. Does this help you to hear all these stories? I knew I was going to step on that nail. Does it help you to hear all these stories about my crazy life, or is it just entertainment to hear about somebody else's crazy life? Because I haven't even started telling you the crazy stuff. Not sure how comfortable I feel telling those, but the statute of limitations is gone on all of it, so. Maybe, wait, all of it? Some of it. Most of it. No, all of it. Yeah, to be honest, I don't know about statute of limitations. I'm just going off the assumption that I'm right, which, is dangerous. Ah! I got you. You're down. No more poking me in the eye, bored with nail. Not that you did do that, but you were going to. Ooh, that's dangerous too. This entire place is just filled with danger. Danger, danger. I just want to cut all these wires. But that's probably more of a danger. One of the things that's difficult for me in this process, is having to spend time away from my daughter. She's at a great age that I enjoy spending time with her, you know, even when she's cranky, which is normal. It's not like she's a cranky girl, but I like spending time with her, and she's fun to watch and be with and all that. And unfortunately, I have to do this. Well, fortunately, I mean, it's a debate, but it's what one parent usually does. One parent usually goes to quote unquote work. And while this is not creating income, it is saving money. Or, well, it will be saving money. At this moment, it's just, I'm just a trash man. God, goodness gracious, man. Okay, almost done. Some people might be wondering why I'm choosing to use this ladder versus a different shaped ladder. Because this is the only ladder I own. That's why I'm using it. Ta-da! Kind of gonna leave that for the moment. It's over the heater. Maybe it'll be the best fire retardant option. I don't know. Let some professional tell me. I'd even take a rank amateur. Hey, oh, oh. So I'm done with the ceiling. So it's now back to either moisture barrier or tile if the moisture barrier was damaged. Except for over the fire that I'm still thinking about. But ceiling's all done, and this is all the trash that I made from the ceiling. This is all the cardboard that was in the ceiling. It's quite a ridiculous amount of cardboard. And that's all the styrofoam that was in the ceiling. So, a lot of trash just literally in the ceiling. So now I get to move on to the walls, the next step down, and get rid of all the crap on all the shelves, then get rid of the shelves.
That's a crazy wrench. Don't even know what it is. That's just an octagonal piece of wood. Those are decent nails that I might use someday. Thanks goodness for work gloves. I tell you, these things are like lifesavers. I would never just sort of stick my hand in some of these places without them. And I wonder who created gloves? Who made gloves? Nobody ever talks about the inventor of gloves. They seem so ubiquitous to life at this point. What has he stored in here? What is so special? Well, those are two keepers. Old photo album and a magnet. I'm hoping once I get sort of further into this that this table will be salvageable. I like the concept of having this table. Of course, the question is just whether or not the table wants to be had, I guess. Okay, so this guy had interesting taste in music. Singles, Alphaville collection. No idea what that is. The Fantastic Boney M. Also never heard of him. But
Here we go. Queen Greatest Hits, Volume 2. Here's a crazy one. Let's see. Squeezer, Drop Your Pants. Very entertaining. Local. Let's see. Vera Martinova. Annie Lennox. ABBA. Greatest Hits, Volume 2. Pet Shop Boys. Elton John's Greatest Hits. Queen. And Genesis. Very interesting selection. Okay.